trained to not think about something. And it's been really bothering me lately. And I just want to go over it because people talk about the economy or politics or culture, but I think we're going too far ahead. What is the point of all of this? What is the point of our society, of us coming together? I don't think it's so just a few people can get ultra wealthy, can get really rich, because so many of us are working full time and still falling behind. What is up with people working full time and still falling behind? And everybody feels the pressure and the problem in our country today, but then we all go towards a different solution. That is strange. We all feel the issue, we all feel this pressure, but then no one can agree what's causing this uneasy feeling. That makes me uneasy. Because it really is. There's so many people that are working full time, still can't make ends meet, are stressed because life is difficult, because the things that we need to live life are expensive, are hard to get. And it's like we've been trained to accept this. Well, everything in life is hard to get, especially the things that you need to live. No, they lied to us about that. They made us forget the actual point of a society. It's so that the majority of us can all try to have some form of freedom or security or prosperity. Type me if you feel this, y'all, because it is such bullshit that they make us go through, that they try to pretend like it's the way of life, that the things you need to live are hard to come by. No. Food, housing, we are able to get those things relatively easily, especially when we all work together to achieve it. Because that's what we need to understand. This isn't political or anything like that. It's like a basic, what do we all get out of bed for in the morning question. Are we all really excited to go make somebody else rich? And it's still being really hard for us to afford not luxuries, not multiple homes, not the most expensive food, just food and healthcare and housing. Because that's really what I think society is supposed to be, so that the majority of us can achieve security, prosperity. And let me get a yes if you agree with that, because that's what life should be about. Not you working hard so some other person can get rich. You being able to afford what you need to live. And the funny part is, all humans need the same thing. And if you're like, yeah, obviously, that's the way life should be. Well, the next question I got for you gets a little bit more difficult. So if you just joined, we're connecting the dots between why everybody feels pissed off and nobody has enough money, but we all come up with a different answer to why. And that's really the problem that keeps us stuck here, because we all feel the pressure and we feel the stress, but for some reason, everybody comes up with a different reason. So let's talk about it. Because everybody's working hard. I'm not going to, everybody is working hard because they want to afford the things you need to live. If you don't work hard, then you don't have access to food or housing or healthcare. But this is the part that keeps getting me deep in my soul. Security is not complicated. Like when people say they want security, they don't mean mansions and yachts. They mean food, housing. That's it. Imagine if your food and housing together was like 10% of your salary. Imagine if all of your groceries and your rent or mortgage payment was like $1,000. That's what it should be. Because that would allow you to have security. And I know people are thinking, no, it's more than that. But is it really? We're literally just talking about what do most humans need? Food and housing. Think if you knew that you had food and housing secured for the next 10 years, so much of your stress would go away. Think how much, if you knew that you had a house and food for the next 10 years, how much less stressed would you be? Most of your fear disappears. And it's that fear that they use to divide us. So imagine if you didn't have to be afraid of where your food was coming from, of where your housing would coming from, you would have less stress. And guess what? If you don't have food or housing, that's all you think about. Because when you don't have the basic necessities, you're obsessed with obtaining them. And that doesn't make you a bad person. That's saying, I need to get the things I need to live. So security is basically easy access to food and housing. Well, Pat, a lot of what we're going to go talk about is corporations. So big food is. And that's what's crazy. 80% of people, 80% of Americans don't have enough savings. So 80% of Americans don't have that easy access to food and housing. 80%. That's 208 million people who are not secure with food and housing. So that's not a personal problem. That is not regular everyday Americans failing and being lazy or not knowing how to budget. That is a system being rigged. That is a rigged system. Type me if you feel this, because we are all at the carnival and we are not able to win the carnival game, and we feel bad because we think we're doing something wrong. But note, you see every other person fail. 8 out of 10 fail, 9 out of 10 fail, and you realize that it's not your fault, right? You realize it's not your fault. And it's not about comparing yourself to others. It's having the ability to see things that are happening on a large scale, because they want us thinking it's just you. You're the only one working 40 hours a week and still can't make ends meet. That's your problem. But then if you look around and see that 80% of people are working full time and still can't make ends meet, then is it still just your problem? Or is that a system that doesn't work for the people that should? There you go, happy lad. You hit the nail on the head. So type me. We understand. It's not us. It's corporations taking more than their fair share. And then do you know why corporations love politicians? Because corporations pay the politicians to lie to us about what the problem is. Corporations and politicians are working together to keep you broke, because the more broke you are, the less likely you are to push back. The more broke you are, the more likely you are to be focused on your food and your housing and your health care. The more broke you are, the less you care about the people up top screwing you over. It's not that complicated. It's politics stopped being for the people and started being for profit. The media stopped being for the people and started being for profit. Corporations got greedy and they got rid of the guardrails against that greed. That's the only problem in America. Greed is the disease. Everything else is a symptom of that greed being the disease. They froze wages, they raised prices, but they all also own pieces of each other. And they all pay the same lobbyist companies to make sure that the rich get richer. But the rich need us to get richer, and then they screw us over every chance they get. And the screwing us over part, they're legally obligated to screw us over. They stack the deck because they're incentivized for profit. Red Vixen, they're legally obligated to ship those jobs overseas because they don't care about you. They don't care about your community. They care about one thing and one thing only. Put it in the chat. It's such BS. They rewrote the rules so that greed became what they pushed towards. Greed is the only thing they want. Because they know that if they have all the money, they have all the power. Because look, we intentionally don't have money. Our salary and our cost of living is purposefully the same. Because corporations don't have any competition. That's the number one thing. Corporations don't have any competition. There used to be mom and pop shops and local stores. And if we walked in to a Walmart or a Home Depot and they treated us like crap, we would walk out and go to the local store instead. Having was one of the strongest things we could do to push against the corporations. So what did they do? They got rid of all of the options on purpose because they knew that if the customers could not walk out that door and go shop somewhere else, that we were forced to shop there. And if we're forced to shop there, they don't need to offer better services. They don't need to offer better products. They don't need to offer better salaries. Right? And if you are stuck thinking this is a left versus right battle, you are playing into the hands of the billionaires. Anybody that points fingers to either side is being manipulated by the ultra wealthy because they don't understand that anything that we do that points anything other than greed is the disease helps the ultra wealthy. So the fact that we fight left versus right, that helps the ultra wealthy. Because those people fighting left versus right, my God, we have more in common than we do with the ultra wealthy. It's just that they make sure that we stay at each other's throats, right? Because one of us wants to say Bush was the problem. The other one says Clinton was the problem. And if we are fighting over which one is the problem, we'll never realize that both of them are. That the whole system that allowed them to have power is the problem. So that's really what it comes down to. And then if you are fighting for what you need to live, if you've got to work 40 or 50 hours a week just for your food, just for your housing, just for your health care, well, you're not going to be thinking about the big problems that have plagued society, right? If you are thinking about where you're going to get your rent from next month, you're not worried about the billionaires and what they're doing to control you. If you're thinking about where your food's coming from the next day, you're not worried about what the billionaires are doing to control you. Scumbag, always appreciate your support. Sorry that I have to insult you every time I say your name. No. But that's what it is we work 40 hours a week and we still can't easily afford food and housing and healthcare. Then what do? They blame our asses. They blame you. We were born in a rigged carnival. We were born into a rigged carnival. And when we walk right up and we play those carnival games, they make fun of us for not being able to win. Man, and that gives us this cognitive dissonance. That's why so many people feel less than. That's why so many people wrap their identity up into politics, because they have nothing else in their life that makes them feel fulfilled and happy. Because they took away everything we need to live, right? What we need is our food, our housing, our healthcare. And you can make it really hard to get those three things. And then everybody in society is tired and frustrated and wondering what the hell is the problem. And when the billionaires have 80% of us wondering what the hell is the problem, then they come and tell us 10, 20, 30 different issues. Hey, y'all, it's foreign influence. Hey, everybody, it's climate change. Hey, everybody, it's housing, it's salary, it's healthcare. It certainly isn't the fact that the billionaires have all the money. It couldn't be that. It certainly is immigration. It's definitely the trans athletes. Because the ultra wealthy control all the jobs. The ultra wealthy control the media. The ultra wealthy control politics. But yup, it's immigrants that are causing all of your problems. But yup, it's healthcare, jobs, right? We're done blaming people because it's so frustrating. Because what they did was they take the same, all of us feel this frustration, everybody in America. We all feel like something is wrong. Well, one side just said, point over there, right? That's what the billionaires did. They pointed in all directions. Well, what if it was them? What if it was them? Basically, they got to the point, making so much money that all the rest of us feel like there's a problem. Now that we feel like there's a problem, they swoop in with their media and they have us point fingers anywhere except for the ultra wealthy. They want us pointing fingers at the Fed, at inflation, at other people, at climate change. Nope. The problem is that 1% of people have as much as 90% of us. Let me say that again. 1% of people have as much as 90% of us. So if you had 10 people standing in a line, one person has as much as the other 9 combined. That's insane. Especially when the 10 people had to work together to make the money. So the 10 people worked together to make the money, but one person took half of it. What the F? And we just let that happen. That's the problem that we all feel. If America was 10 people baking 10 slices of bread, well, one person would have 5 slices. There would be 9 people competing over the other 5 slices. So when we all feel like something is wrong, that's what it is. 9 people are fighting over 5 slices of bread. So that brings in scarcity. We start looking around and we asking, why isn't there enough? Well, the media owned by the billionaires comes in and blames it. Have you ever wondered why trans athletes are headline news when that doesn't affect our jobs, our housing prices, anything that actually matters? Because they want to distract us and have us pointing fingers left versus right instead of up versus down and seeing what the actual problem is. Because if they can keep us distracted, if they can understand that that we're going to be fighting left versus right, it's where it's not left versus right, it's up versus down. Both parties are 2 sides of the same coin, and that coin is in a billionaire's pocket. Yes, one is good cop and one is bad cop, but they both work for the same exact corrupt system. And that's what we need to understand, is that even when we argue red versus blue, neither work for you. They're both just corporations. They're political corporations. And we have to remember that corporations don't care about us. They don't. Corporations do not care about us because the majority of Americans do not have savings. And the whole reason is the politicians and corporations have worked together to make sure that we are broke. And number one, to make sure we don't have any other options, right? And that's the one thing Makita Bananas will talk about next, that local elections are incredibly important. But if that community still only has one corporate grocery store, if that community still only has one corporate general store, then people aren't stuck because they aren't electing good leaders. People are stuck because we have no other options for what we need to live. Most people get their food at a corporate grocery store, not because they want to, because that is the easiest option for them. It's most efficient. People don't leave systems because you convince them to leave. People leave systems when a more efficient option comes along, when a better option comes along. Makita Bananas, I am loving your participation because you are hitting all the right notes, and we are going to be getting into that right next. Because the first thing is we need to recognize, just as Burrs comes in with the heat, that the corporations and politicians are working together. Essentially, politicians work for the corporations because politicians work for the people that pay their campaign finance or their campaigns. The people that fund their campaigns are the ones that control the politicians. And that's how we get 208 million people that don't have any savings. Because the politicians and the corporations are both afraid of the same goddamn thing. You having enough money to stay home for 30 days, for 15 days. You being able to say, fix this economy so it works for us instead of against us. And if you don't fix it, we're going to sit our asses on the couch for 3 weeks, for 4 weeks, because we're going to buy our food from a local farmer instead. We're going to get our health care directly from the doctor, and we are not living in this system that screws us over every chance they get. Jason, I appreciate that, because not only does this system screw us over, they make it feel like you did something wrong, Jason, right? You busted your ass. You worked hard, you studied, you did everything you could. And now the cost of living is higher than the average salary. And what do they say, Jason? Oh, ultra wealthy's like, my bad, sorry about that, right? No, they say it's your fault, right? They say it's your fault. And all we are saying is that corporations don't care about you. Why does that make everybody so upset? Every time we start pointing at it, a Jack Samady comes into the room and gets their feelings hurt when I say corporations don't care about you. And here we got Jack coming in going, oh man, what's this guy talking about? Well, all we're saying is corporations don't care about you. A health insurance corporation would let you or your family, your kid, your parents pass away before providing you life-saving care if it would add to their bottom line. A company that makes food would make it so unhealthy and so fattening just to keep you coming back. And then they would lie to you about what's in it. Among the 50s, your boss will tell you, just bust your ass for the next 6 months and I'll give you a raise after that, right? Then you bust your ass for 6 months, you go and you're asked for a raise, and the boss goes, what? Johnson, money doesn't buy happiness? I wish we could be like, yeah, but money buys housing, you asshole. Money buys health care. Money feeds my damn kids. We know money doesn't buy happiness, but money buys resources. And we do need food and housing and health care to live. They take the things we need to live and they make it so expensive that we can't afford it. And who do the politicians work for? Do the politicians work for the people? Absolutely not. Politicians work for the people that pay their campaign funds. Who funds the politicians' campaigns? Certainly isn't us anymore. It is the corporations through Citizens United. So that is who the politicians work for. So what we are is we're stuck in, okay, well, we need to get the politicians to listen to us. We need to get the government to listen to us. The government doesn't control shit anymore. The people that control things are the ones that control your food. The people that control things are the ones that say, hey, if you're protesting, you're not going to be allowed to go to the pharmacy for the rest of the year. If you're protesting, nobody else in your family can get medicine from the pharmacy. Well, Ernie, here's what it is. If we stay home for a month, where do we get our groceries from? Where do we get our food from? We all pay our health insurance in corporations and doctors. And I like what you're saying, they can't foreclose on millions of homes, but what we'd have to do first is put together a tenant union, right? So, and that's all you see. Jack's getting frustrated, but the politicians do not control things, y'all. It's pretty easy for all of us to see, right? One of the lies the system tells us, the people who control things are your politicians. The people who control things write the laws in your country. No, the people who control things, the people that control all the seeds and have copyrights on seeds throughout your country, they control things. The people that have control your doctors and your healthcare providers, they control things. The politicians work for the people that control the things. Leah, that is exactly right. That is what we need to do. But even before a union, we also have to understand that we could have the strongest union in the world, but corporations have made it so the things that we need to live are owned by them and only them. It's not that we can't get our food somewhere else. They make it so much more difficult to get our food somewhere else that the majority of people just go to corporate grocery stores, not because they want to, because it's out of habit and because something better has not come along. That's the first step, Lee. Something better has to come along. Systems don't get fixed. We're not going to sit here and roll back the corporate options and we'll have all the same corporations, but they'll just be nicer to us. That'll never happen. Systems get fixed when a better option comes along. I don't even think we need to sacrifice. I think we need to build something better. I know we can build something better because corporations stop doing the number one thing that humans love the most. Caring about them. Well, Lee, that's why we need to make it a selfish endeavor for people. We need to make it something that they get excited about, that not only serves their community, but also can help them potentially, can help their friends. Because that's what it is. It's how do we do these three things? Serving the community, creating an alternative option to corporations. That's the number one thing. That is what will get us out of here. We need to not shop at corporations for 30 days. But the way our current economy is set up, we do not have many alternatives to not shop at corporations today. But Lee, that's what it is. We're never going to get 40 million people to feel that way, right? Ever. We're not even going to get 40 or 50 million people to agree on the same thing. That's why we need to stop trying to convince people and start showing them there's a better way. Yes, there is a general strike going on January 20th. I believe there's more actions going on January 23rd. But what we really need to realize is that a 1 day, a 1 week, that's just practice. That's not going to do anything. What it is it starts people on the road because there's this ladder of action we've been talking about. And first, before people climb that ladder of action, they have to recognize what the actual problem is. And that is that greed is the disease. Even if we walk out for 1 day, it does not matter for 1 week because the very next day we'd have to buy our food from their corporations. We'd buy our health insurance every single month from their health insurance companies. We pay our rent and our mortgage to multinational mega corporations. So Ernie, the problem is that we can't shut it down because we rely on the things that they produce. We can't do that right now because where would we go in 10 days if all the grocery stores were closed? Where would the majority of people get their food? Well, they wouldn't. They would crack. Where would we get our electricity? Would somebody keep giving us clean water? What would we do with our media and all the information that people are? What would we do with our heat? Are people still doing those things? What about our hospitals? What about our health care? So what we need to do is let people see that this is possible first. We need to start taking back control of some of the things we need to live. Because what if we had most people connected to local food so that they could either barter, trade, time bank, or pay their local farmer for what they needed to eat? It's only once every community has enough food for all their citizens to last for 2 weeks or 4 weeks that the strike is actually possible, right? Because right now the corporations control all the food. So where would we get food from if we strike? Right now the corporations control all the medicine. Can't you imagine a scenario where we strike for a week and all the corporate pharmacies go, if you don't go back to work tomorrow, you or anyone in your family is not allowed to buy medicine. You don't have a right to it. It's our product. Go back to work or you can't go to a pharmacy. Go back to work or your health insurance is canceled. Right? But Ernie, you're never going to get that many people to take a leap of faith. I'm right there with you. That is the solution. But you will never get even 1,000 people to risk their livelihoods on let's find out. Because if the majority, you got to see, life is like holding on to a life raft. And most people are barely hanging on to that life raft. What you're describing are the people that are underwater and drowning. Yeah, they don't have anything to lose. Those people that are holding on to that life raft, you're telling them, hey, we're all going to let go and we're going to let go together. And the only way it will work is if all of us let go at the same time. So you want all these people to let go of their only security, go underwater in the hopes that if everybody else lets go of their life raft and goes underwater at the same time, that then once we're all underwater, then we can fix it. I don't know. I think that if we strike and we take away our ability for food and housing or healthcare, I think we might be more worried about our food and our housing and our healthcare. And then if we're more worried, we're less likely to strike. But what if there was an alternative system in place? What if the community saw food not as something that people owned, but as for the community to be stewards over? And what if the community made sure that they always had 30 days of food for all their citizens? Because not only is that the smart thing to do, but honestly, to stand up against a tyrannical government, it doesn't take arms. It takes food and medicine. Food and medicine. And that's what we need to understand. That until you have people's food and medicine figured out, they're not going to quit. It's not even resisting. It's that the people who want to resist need to build something better. It is, so this is an economic pushback group that recognized that regular Americans don't have any power. And the majority of the reason we don't have any power is because we don't have any savings. If we don't have any savings, we can't say no to our bosses, so we're stuck at our job. If we don't have any savings, we don't have freedom of choice. And if we don't have any savings, the most important thing that we lose is the ability to sit our asses on the couch. Because that's the most important thing we can do, is nothing. We can show them that, hey, you might own the factories, but you need us for the factory to work. So our biggest thing would be, all right, well, we're not going to go to the factory for 30 or 40 days. Right now, if we say, all right, we're not going to go work at the factory, they go, ha, 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 we'll see you in 2 days when you get hungry. And the rest of you, we'll see you in 5 days when you get worried about your mortgage or your rent. Right now, we are like 15-year-olds. We are like little teenagers going up to our parents and telling them, you better fix this or we're leaving. And the parents go, ha, ha, where are you going to go? We'll see you back in 2 days when you need food. We'll see you back in 3 days when you get cold. You depend on us completely. Where do you think you're going to go to? And that's exactly what our world and our economy is like, right? We can tell the people up top we are striking, and they're like, okay, where are you going to get your food from? I think you'll be back pretty soon. Hey, we're striking. Okay, where are you going to get your medicine from? Doesn't your best friend need insulin? Well, if nobody's working at the pharmacy, right? So that's where Ryan, Huntress, Jess, let's talk about this solution. Because we really are the ones that do all the hard work. They've taken the hope away from us. But we have to understand a boycott isn't going to do much. But what we have to take is mass action and turn it into a culture shift, a new default for people, because we participate in the system, not because we want to, because it's our habit, because it's our default. So, but Huntress, if millions of us all do our part, if we have 50 million people all part of this community revolution, this small business revolution, that's what we need. So I just, and what it really is you've mentioned 3%, and you may not have been pointing this out, but I do like to say that I think the 3% rule only matters when the institutions of power work for society. When the economy doesn't always work for the regular person, but the media is supposed to be there to give us the truth, to keep us grounded in the same reality. The economy is supposed to be there to provide opportunity, not screw us over. So I think it's really difficult that if everything in society is dominated by people that want to screw us over, that are incentivized to screw us over, then I don't know if the 3% alone, not because there's not more of us than there are them, but because we are a 15-year-old, we're a 14-year-old going to our parents trying to demand change. If a 14-year-old went to their parents and they said, we demand change or else we are leaving. We want pizza for dinner every night or else we are not staying here anymore. The parents would go, all right, we'll see you in 2 days. When you're getting hungry, we'll see you in 3 days. When you overstay your welcome at your friend's house and you have nowhere to stay, you are completely dependent on us. So you have no leverage to demand change because we have to use all of their stuff. Good morning, Wicked Torch. So what we need to do is build a community that encourages people to shift their choices, to recognize that greed is the disease, to then reorganize your life around that. Because here's the spectrum. People either see that greed is the disease or they do not. That is the opening point to this movement. The bread analogy is what we try to use to get people to see the disease. If America was 10 people, one person would have as much money as the other 9 combined. That's freaking insane. If America was 10 people, one person would have as much money as the other 9 combined. And then that one person uses their control of the media to tell us that the problem in society, the reason we're so divided, isn't the fact that one person have as much money as 9 of us combined. It's this problem and that problem and that problem and this problem and this problem and that problem. And look anywhere but here. They're like the Wizard of Oz, hiding behind the curtain, and they're trying to distract you and get you to look anywhere except for them. So Luxter, let's talk about lasting change. Let's talk about lasting change. This is going to be things that sound so simple, they're almost stupid. But what they are is going back to the way things used to be. Corporations didn't always control things. So think of some sector of society, some industry that corporations didn't always control. Well, that's every sector of society. Now, what is something that we need to live that people no longer want corporations to control? Damn, well, I think food is one of them. I think people are sick of corporations controlling their food, raising the prices willy-nilly, putting all of this crap that isn't even food in our food. Ernie, what I'm trying to say is systems don't change because people fight against them. Systems change when a better option comes along. We didn't move from horses to a car because people put a group together and said, switch from horses to cars. People switched from horses to cars because cars came along and they were a better option than horses. And nobody had to be convinced. You didn't have to fight to change people's minds to move from a horse to a car. It sure as hell sounds a lot easier rather than trying to convince 50 million people to fight to change their minds. Do you know how many adults change their minds? Do you know how many have the emotional intelligence to say, I'm sorry, I've been wrong for the last 10 years? I'm going to start caring about my fellow human. I'm going to stop being afraid because of the fear that they try to inject in me leads to division, and start serving the ultra wealthy instead of voting for yourself, right? You're just not understanding it, Ernie. And that's where, y'all, we need to understand that some people just will not get it. We are talking about, why would you argue with somebody that a car is better than a horse when you could just show them the car? That you could just show them the car. And this is the reason why it will work. Because we can make this work for the individual. What? We can make this work for the individual. This can be a small business revolution. People can serve their community. They can provide a local alternative. And then if they want to, if it gets big enough, if you're working 6 or 8 hours a week to help purchase a bulk order of food for a group of people, you can tack on a small coordination fee. You can start making 40 or 50 bucks a week. And I bet you that if you get people, so let's see, eggs are like $6 at the grocery store. If you get, $5, $4, if you get eggs for $3 or $4 from a farmer, and you charge them a quarter, 50 cents on it, you're still getting eggs for the rest of it. You're still getting eggs for cheaper than the grocery store. You're providing a service to people. It's not about growing your own food at all. Kimberly, that's never going to be the case. I think it's going to be difficult to get the majority of people to do something that they're not used to. What we do is sorry, let me go back. Corporations are just middlemen. Corporations don't do shit. Corporations don't grow our food. They pay somebody in our community to grow our food. Corporations don't take care of us via healthcare. They pay somebody that lives in our community to take care of us via healthcare. Corporations don't even build our houses. Your neighbors, your buddies, they're the construction workers. They're laying the concrete. They're plumbing the buildings. They're putting up the electrical work. But the corporations take all the money for all those things, right? So that's where the issue comes in, is that most people don't see that corporations don't do anything. Corporations don't do anything. So we can start providing value. We can start adding extra where they exploit us. That's it. That's what will fix this. That's what will fix this. Because we're not waiting until everybody has nothing to lose, and they'll never let us get to the point. Don't you see, Ernie? Our cost of living and our salary will always be the same. They'll never make the cost of living higher than the salary, because then the majority of people will have nothing to lose. And then they'll get a true pushback. But if they can make it so that people are barely hanging on, and you're just saving $200, $300, $400 a month, you're never going to get ahead, but you're also terrified to fall behind. That's the situation that they will keep us in forever, because then the majority of people will not, or the majority of people will be afraid to lose what little they have. Whereas if you have nothing, you will push back. But if you've got this much, you're afraid to lose this much. And that's how they will always keep us earning. Systems don't get fixed. Systems certainly don't get fixed because you fought against it or because you tried to convince people. Look at some of the trolls that come in here. You really think you're going to convince them? They're just playing on two sides. They're just playing the two teams, right? That's all. They don't really care. So the way that we can beat corporations, it isn't in, what we can offer. What's up, Dale? It isn't in the extensiveness that we can offer it. You know where we can beat corporations is we can care about people. Corporations are failing. Corporations are failing us because corporations know they don't have to care about us. Because the only reason they would care about us is if we could leave and go shop somewhere else. It wouldn't be truly caring about us, but they would pretend to care about us so we didn't walk out the door and go to their competitor. But because Home Depot got rid of Dale's hardware store, Home Depot knows that they can treat us however they want, and we're not able to walk out the door and go to Dale's hardware store. They don't care about us because they don't have to, because they got rid of all of our other alternatives. So what if we built an alternative that worked for people instead of against us? So grocery stores, back to corporations as middlemen. All grocery stores did 40 and 50 years ago was say, hey, y'all, rather than 7 or 8 of you, or rather than you driving to 7 or 8 different farms or buying all of this stuff, what if we drove to all the farms and bought this stuff for you? And then you went to a grocery store and you bought it all from one place. Wouldn't that be great? And we as a community, not thinking that somebody could be such a dick to their fellow humans, we're like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah. Just don't screw us over, corporation. But we didn't feel like they would screw us over because the person who started that corporation back in 1940, well, they've been living in this community their whole life, right? We trusted that corporation because the people that was in charge of it cared about our community. They've only ever watched out for our community. Walmart, I'm sure, when they started with that one store in Arkansas, the only way they could grow was by caring about their community members. I guarantee at the very first Walmart store, their employees weren't rolling their eyes and walking the other direction. They paid their employees enough to live, right? Elliot, that's not going to do anything because you have to have health insurance to live. You have to have cars and transportation and gasoline. That's all controlled by corporations. You have to have housing controlled by corporations. Boycotting only goes so far because we don't control what we need to live. You can't boycott food. The majority of people have to get their food from corporate grocery stores. You can't boycott food. You can't boycott freaking health insurance. You need your health insurance. That's all corporations. You need to pay your rent or your mortgage. That gets paid to a corporation. We can't just boycott. What we need to do is replace. So rather than letting the grocery store be the middleman, rather than letting the grocery store be the local food distributor, we need to take that shit back. We should be the ones connecting the people in our neighborhood to the farmers. We should be the ones connecting the people in our neighborhood to our doctors. We should be the ones that get the value from what we build, right? But right now, all the value that a community builds goes to the middlemen. That makes no sense. So here's the idea. We start buying groups. You get 15 people, you get 10 people together. You get 15 people together, and we have buying groups. We start with food buying groups. That's where this begins at. Food buying groups. Because we've got to understand that corporations are just middlemen. And if we went to the farmer and we were like, hey, we've got 50, we've got 75, we've got 100 people that want to buy eggs from you locally. So, whistleblower, this is the start of a food co-op. What I'm describing is the beginnings of a co-op. Jay Sonny, that's exactly my thought. We have a real opening here for a business. We need a small business revolution. We need 1 million people to start businesses with the one principle that says, I'm going to beat the corporations, not because I will ever be bigger. I'm going to beat the corporations because I'm smaller. I'm going to beat the corporations because I will know every one of my customers' names. I might not get rich, but if I've got 50 people paying me $1 a week, I'm still making $200 a month. I'm connecting people with food that is local. And most importantly, we're showing people that a local alternative can exist, that it can be just as easy. Livia Van Weisenberg, we are already building this. If you love this idea, please come. I am helping do it in Maryland. That's where I'm located. We've got people all across the country. And we are so ready to start showing people that you don't need to get your food from a corporation. You can get it from a local provider. And guess what? You can step up and be that provider. Essentially, farms need a marketer, right? Farms need like a marketer. But rather than working for the farm, if you just went ahead and bought it. Ernie, these are small businesses that don't create anything. They take the same exact spot in society as corporations did. But rather than sitting in that spot and exploiting people, we will sit in that spot and serve people. There are people over here that want to buy food. There are people over here called farmers that want to sell food. There are people in between that connect the people that buy to the people that sell, and those are corporations. The farmers aren't making all the money. The people buying the food aren't doing well. The people in between are making all the money. So what we're saying is, let's be the people in between, Ernie, because that person isn't doing anything. They really aren't. They're saying, hey, people over here that want to buy something, I'm going to go over there and buy a lot of things from the farmers and bring it to you people who want to buy things. They don't do anything. They're just the middlemen. So we need it. And then they're middlemen that they don't give a shit about us. They don't care about us. They do not care about us. So how does it get to a point that they're the middlemen for all the things that we need to live, but they care so little about us? Ernie, it's not that hard. You get 15, 20 people, and rather than saying, we need to fight against the system, we need to sacrifice and do, you say, hey, corporations don't care about us, but corporations control all of our food, right? I don't like that a corporation is controlling all of our food. We're putting a group of people together to buy our food from a local farmer. Would you be in for that? That's it. Would you buy eggs locally if I set it up? That is it. Would you buy eggs locally if I set it up? And then you get 15, 20 people to purchase those eggs. You call the local farmer. You call the person with the eggs. Hey, if I buy 200 eggs a week, if I buy 150 eggs a week, what would you sell them to me for? Right? What would you sell them to me for? Deceived, you are so right. Because my favorite line is, if you are a local food distributor, this takes politics out of the equation. I know, Dale. But that's where you say, I need 10 dozen. But when I say 10 dozen, it sounds a lot better to say 120. I need 10 dozen eggs. I need 50 dozen eggs. So what you do is you get groups of people together first that all want the same thing. Then you connect them to it. We're local food distributors. That's all that needs to happen. We are already building this. We are already doing this because it's a small business idea. People are so sick of corporations screwing us over every chance they get. How nice would it be to go to any small business that meets your needs like food, that meets your needs like healthcare or a general store, and you walked in there and they actually cared about you? Isn't that crazy? Actually caring about you. Customer service, not this fake crap, but like, hey, you live in my neighborhood. Well, so we can't build the replacement for tech. We just have to first show people that there's a better option. And once we're able to show people that there's a better option, because right now we don't think it's possible. We don't think it's possible. Most of us have been born into this corporate system. So we are just sort of doing what we've always done, right? We aren't doing anything different. We're just following the habits. So what we really need to do is show the majority of people that they can have different habits. You don't need to follow the corporations. And then they say, well, if I don't need to follow the corporations, what do I do? And that's where we need to show them. And so I'm pulling you up the guide to it right now. Sorry for the delay, of how we can show people. Because we need to make an impact, not by convincing people to change. We will make an impact by showing a better option. That's it. The system isn't going to change because because we convince 50 million people to leave it. The system will change when we show a better option. Honestly, that's it. So the local food distributor, what do? If you can reach out to 15 people and coordinate something, that's it. Because what you're doing is you're reaching out to 15 people. Would you buy eggs locally if I set it up? You order on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. You don't have to order. Just order that week if you want to. If you do choose to order, pickup is on Friday and Saturday afternoons. We do an hour each time, whatever it is. Then once you've got 15, 20 people, then you reach out to the local farmer. Hey, we got 20 people that want to buy a dozen eggs a week. How much could you sell us 20 dozen eggs a week for? Because what farmers want is predictable, repeatable business. What farmers want is to not have to do all the job of marketing, is to not have to stand on their feet for hours or pay money to a food stand. If you were a small business and somebody just showed up and said, I've got a repeatable order for you every single week, and this matters because this is literally how food already gets to people. That's it. Somebody calls up all the farmers and buys all the food, and they put it in a central store where everybody comes and buys it. You're doing the same thing just without the store. This is coordinating a bulk order. Hey, 15 people. If I placed a bulk order of eggs, would you get some? Cool. Well, the bulk order shows up on Friday. The farmer will drop it off to us. And what this does is it takes politics out of the equation. You don't need to convince people. You don't need to convince them at all. You just say, hey, we've got this better option. You get local food. It's the same price. It tastes better. The only difference is you pick it up from this parking lot than from the grocery store. That's how systems change. Not when you convince them to change, but when a better option comes along. That's it. So that's what we need to build. The way that we fix this is by building a better option. Because that's the only thing that allows us to long-term do what is most powerful. Because what is the most powerful thing we can do? Sit our asses on the couch. But we need to sit our asses on the couch for a month. But in order to sit our asses on the couch, we have to be the local food distributors. Y'all, I put this as the first page in TikTok. I just posted this picture. And then if you want some more, let me give you some more. Because I like the first page, but the second page is what really gets me excited. Here's all the questions that probably are all asking. Is this legal? Yeah, this shit's legal. You're coordinating a bulk order. You're not relabeling or making health claims. You're getting 20 people to show up at a certain time to buy eggs from a farmer. It's just you're the one doing all the work to get those people to show up. You're providing a community service because you're creating a non-corporate option. Will it be cheaper? God damn. Grocery stores probably get eggs for like $2 or $3. Then they got to pay somebody to go truck it to their distribution center. They got to package it. They got to put their labels on it. They got to wash it. They got to pay for the rent at the grocery store. They got to pay for all the staff at the grocery store. We pay for all that in the price of our food. This gets rid of all of that. I did, Dale. Thank you. This gets rid of all of that. Quality is higher. Money stays local. Supply is reliable. You don't have to beat the corporations. You just have to care a little bit more. This is a small business idea, y'all. And let me get to the bottom because this is my favorite part. Because it happened last night, fellow. You were there. I said it without explaining myself, and people go, small business idea? I thought this was mutual aid. Well, it's unity of thought, not unity of action, because I think what gets people excited is being able to serve their community and serve themselves. So, Jason, we're not trying to replace the grocery store right away. That is how most movements fail. They try to get too big for damn britches. Not us. We start with one goddamn thing. We start with eggs. We ride it on with eggs. Eggs, easy to count. You don't have to weigh them. You don't have to keep them cold. Everybody buys them once a week. Farmers get them in abundance. This is not just another middleman. No, not farm fresh eggs. They do not have to be for like 2 weeks. A middleman extracts value by not being part of the community. That's why corporations don't care about us, because they're located 9 states over. Wicked Torch, I'll get there in just a second, but that's the next step. They control what we need to live. If there's an abundance of eggs, they don't just sell us all the eggs at a lower price. They drip the supply, so we have to pay more. A local coordinator cares about the people, right? Well, Dale, this can be a for-profit, because think, it starts off, all right, maybe when it's 10 people and you're spending 20 minutes a week, you're like, I don't want to charge money to these 10 people. But when there's 100 people, J HUD, a copy of this, it's the very first post on our TikTok profile. I put up both of these pictures on our TikTok profile before starting this live today. They are also available in the Discord, because the Discord, J HUD, is where we are breaking out into state. So we already have teams broken out by state. So Dale, that's where I think people can do what they want, because I see it as 2 different things. I see that if we tell people, oh, you have to reinvest your profit. Well, are we really going to get 1 million people to do this? But if we say some people are reinvesting their profit, some people are using it to make ends meet. Dale, if I was buying, my big thing is like, I want laundry detergent. I want locally made laundry detergent. If somebody helped me get locally made laundry detergent and that person cared about me and I had to pay 50 cents more for my laundry detergent, I would. If somebody is offering me the eggs for a price below the grocery store, if they're offering me eggs for $5 for nice, fresh, organic eggs, I don't care if they're getting those eggs for $4.50 and they're charging me 50 cents. I think that's might be the thing that gets people excited. The way that I say it is, we all need a goddamn side hustle anyway. Might as well screw over the corporations while serving our community and making some money for ourselves, right? Well, what I think it is, Dale, is I think that, to me, this is the start. And what I guess I don't get is, don't co-ops make money? Don't farmers markets make money? Isn't that farmer in business to do the 2 things that we're talking about? Serve your community, provide an alternative to corporations, and make enough to live. That's it, not exploitation. I think once we get away from people loving money and people loving greed, I'm a business owner. I don't exploit across the board. And I take great care to make sure that I'm partners with everyone that I'm working with, that I am a steward. Well, Dale, I just think that both will be fine. So, and then here's the thing, Dale. Here's what it is. Jason and Wicked Torch have hit on it. I believe that once we show that this works, and the reason I say, I know, Jason, Dale, I just love you, so it's all good. Because what I really want, Dale, is I want people to critique this. I want people to rip this apart. And it's just that, Dale, the same thing happened last night, and the person got really mad at me. So I'm sorry if I'm sensitive. Where I was just like, no, I just thought this was a way to explain co-ops to people, because it technically is the start of a small business, and you can choose whether you want to make this a service-based, a nonprofit that completely reinvests in the community, or you can choose whether you want to make it profit-based. And here's my thought, Dale, is that if we do have 1 million of these pop up, Well, then the competition would be between, do I want to go to one that serves my community? Or do I want to go to one that serves themselves? And damn, that would be awesome if those were our choices. Where you have 500,000 people start this business and they're like, I'm going to make some money. I'm going to start a co-op that pays out to its members. And the other 500,000 are like, I'm going to start a co-op that pays out to the community. Well, let's see which one wins. Right? So, and if you really want to do this, we put together the step-by-step guide at the bottom. Get a small group together. All you need is about 15 people. Once you got 15 people, find a farmer. Hey, 100 eggs a week. What are you selling to me for? Then you pick a schedule. Orders open Sunday. Orders close Wednesday. You pick up Friday evening or Saturday mornings. You shoot everybody a text when orders are open, when they close, when the pickup is, all that stuff. You're simply the point of contact. Eggs are delivered to a local parking lot, a field, a park, a small business, a union hall, anywhere that's accessible. And then boom, you're done for the week. That's it. My wife saw this and she got so excited. Not for this one. She's not about the food buying like I am. She's excited because we have groups doing this for clothing and reselling items. She gets all of our kids' clothes used from an online consignment shop. And that's what I'm going to build next, is this same exact thing. But how can you do this with selling used clothing? With selling refurbished goods? Because what you do is you get that same group of 15, 20, 30 people, and you say, look, if you want to sell anything online, rather than you going through the hassle of selling it, I'll sell it for you. F that, Jason. A local alternative to Goodwill. A local alternative to Goodwill, where Goodwill isn't the middleman, where we're the middleman. That's what it is. Because, yeah, Goodwill's idea is great, but Goodwill got too greedy too. Let's do the same thing Goodwill does, but keep the money in our community. So it's literally what Goodwill does, but you be Goodwill. We have it here in Baltimore. It's fucking incredible. We have 2 little girls, 6-month-old and almost 3. God dang, they go through clothes quick. What they do, what this online group does, is they find all these groups of parents and say, when your kids outgrow, sell your clothes to me. And rather than you selling 50 clothes while you're chasing around a toddler, we'll sell the clothes and give you this much. We'll give you $50 for them. We'll give you $60. You can expand that into used furniture. You can get somebody on the team. You can be the one that deals with all the used clothes. You can get somebody else that fixes up and resells old furniture, tables, chairs, desks. Shit, I didn't even give my other idea. When you're doing the food distributing, you can have people out there selling local soaps, selling my fabled local laundry detergent. Luxter, it's the same idea. That's where you would meet people, but you would move off. This is what's so crazy, is we can literally just take the ideas of what the corporations have always done and say, how can we do this better than corporations? Not because we can scale bigger, but because we can care more. Because we care better. There's a line in there somewhere. But we're never going to beat the corporations because we get bigger than them. And I think that's what stops us, right? We're like, oh, the corporations are too big. We can never compete. But we forget that the biggest thing we can compete on is actually being small. We should have garage sales in every single Walmart parking lot. We should have farmers markets in every single grocery store parking lot. Because if we had those rich people's garage sales in every single Walmart parking lot, Walmart would actually have to compete with the people selling shit in their parking lot. Walmart would have to offer better salaries so that the freaking customers, or so that the freaking employees would actually smile at you instead of driving you to the garage sale outside. They'd have to get some fruit that actually tastes good. God damn, I hate grocery store strawberries. And they would have to sell us some better tasting strawberries if we had farmers market outside competing with them. So it doesn't have to be outside, but we can compete with them on quality and care. We can get better shit for the same price and care more. That's how we win. And whether we do it out of service to our community, because what I think is, I don't think everybody's going to agree. I think some people are going to take this food distributor idea, take this local consignment store idea, and do it out of the goodnesses of their heart. But damn, once you're working on it for 5 hours or 10 hours a week, you might feel that, hey, I'm spending a lot of time on this. I'm doing this on top of my full-time job. Maybe you put in a small coordination fee. If you do or if you don't, it doesn't matter. But what this really is, yes, Sprouts sucks, is it's cost plus food. That's it. We all love Mark Cuban's cost plus drugs because they took the mystery out of it. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Oh, I know, Dale. I'm a business owner. So we're going to do this or we're going to do that. This is what we get the product for. This is the little fee that we add on for coordinating all this. Here's your total price. It's still better than what the health insurance company gave you. I imagine the same thing, cost plus food. Here's what we got these strawberries for. We got them for $2 because we got them from the grower down the road. We sold these strawberries for $3. That still is 25 cents less than the $3.25 that you're buying the strawberries for at the grocery store. And so whether you reinvest that money into the community or whether you use it as profit and pay back the members, this would be like the start of a co-op. I'm in Maryland, Jason. So it's not a healthcare co-op. What it is doctors and nurses hate health insurance companies. Doctors already have this thing. They love it. They call it cash pay. You pay the doctor for your health care. Whoa, weird, right? Pay the doctor for your health care instead of the health insurance. So what we need to form are direct primary care groups. Direct primary care groups. The same way that a bulk order is what fixes it, is what changes it, you have to get 50 people together. And you go with those 50 people and you go to a local practice where there's 4 or 5 doctors and you say, hey, y'all, us 50 people are not getting crap from our health insurance. We'd like to pay you $100 a month, and that way we can come to you as many times we need to if we're sick. But if we're not sick, we don't come in, but we'll still pay you the $100. Would you be okay with that? I bet you that we could get a lot of doctors to switch to that model, direct primary care. Because number one, doctors hate the health insurance companies too. Number two, if that doctor took that deal, they would be wanting to keep those customers healthy. They want their patients not coming in. The healthier they keep their customers, the less they have to work. Now, that's some incentive. That's the incentive that I want to see from our healthcare industries. Oh, the healthier my patients are, the less I have to work, the more money I make. Instead of what, a healthcare system? Don't they call it like a sick system or something like that? But that's what it is. We've already got somebody in our group who is spearheading this. And then, fellow, I think we need to understand, because when you used to say that, that used to confuse me. Now I understand that we are not customers because we don't have a choice. That's the difference. We were customers when we could walk out of Home Depot and go to Ace, but we freaking can't. Sorry, go to Ace. Go to the local hardware store. We were customers when we could walk out of the local general store and go to Dale's general store. We were customers when we could leave the grocery store and go to a local one. We were customers when we could choose the different newspaper to read, the different doctor to go to. But I think Still Mountain, they did trick us. There was that little period where corporations were like, no, we will be stewards of these things. We will not own them. But then slowly, as they controlled more and more of what we needed to live, and as more people only knew the corporate system, because we simply didn't grow up with any other system, they took more and more power. And that's how they've taken over the entire economy, the media, and politics. So most people think that protesting or getting new leaders in position will fix things. But that's also another lie from the system, because the system wants us to believe that our politicians are in control. Oh boy, they're not. The people that are in control are the people that control your food. That's corporations. Yeah, Wicked, I'm an old millennial. So I am right on the edge of I sort of remember it. I remember people talking about it a lot. 100% Still Mountain, right there with you. So that's where the biggest power that we have is sitting our asses at home. The only way that we have the power to sit our asses at home is if we control the resources that we need to live. Imagine if every single zip code had like a zip code coordinator, and that zip code's coordinator job was to always keep enough food, is always have healthcare, and to always have enough housing for all of its citizens. Not because it loved its citizens, because it was the morally correct thing to do. No, because it didn't want corporations to have all the power. That's it. The government was like, oh shit, the government has no power if we don't control any food, if we don't control literally any medicine, if we don't control any of the housing. If corporations control all that, then corporations are the ones in charge. See you, fellow. Good having you here. Y'all, if you haven't hop in that Discord yet, Wicked Torch, go right ahead. We might move the time to the morning because they're late for me with two little ones. So, y'all, it comes down to the fact that Americans don't have enough money. We don't have enough money, not because we're lazy. We don't have enough money because the ultra wealthy have taken more than their fair share. 1% of people, if America was 10 people, one person would have as much as the other 9 combined. But the messed up part is that one person relied on the other 9 of us to make that money, right? Jason, that's my goal. With Farm Fresh 24/7 Collectively Sustainable calls them lighthouses. If we can have lighthouses that are the producer and the wholesaler and the central of the community-based economy, that's what we need. So they took more than their fair share. The one person up top, if we imagine the American economy as 10 slices of bread, one person has 5 freaking slices, and the other 9 people are fighting over the other 5. That's why we feel so divided. That's why we feel so afraid, because there's not enough. And then they use that to divide us. So that's why we're divided. Then when people see that, oh, there's more of us than there are them, we think that means that we should win as long as we come together. But then if we come together, but we still don't have any food or healthcare or medicine or housing, well, we still don't have the power, right? 100 million people could go protest tomorrow, but the very next day we'd all go buy our food from the very same people we are protesting against. 100 million people could protest tomorrow, but we would all buy our healthcare insurance from the same people that we're protesting against. So until we take back control of some of that food by being a local food distributor, by being a local consignment shop, by putting together a direct primary care model in your area, We will never be able to overcome the corporations because they will always have the power of controlling what we need to live. And that was not an accident. They make sure that they control our food, our housing, our healthcare, all those things. So, in order to fix this, we need to get people to understand that it was not always this way. Corporations did not always control all of our food. That happened recently, and it happened because they tricked us. When they started developing grocery stores, we told them, hey, don't screw us over. Hey, we are the farmers that actually make the food. We're the ones that actually buy the food. All you are is a middleman that connects the people who grow the food to connect the people that buy the food. Please don't screw us over. And originally they did it. A little while, that corporation did actually care about the community, right? Healthcare is easy to take back.